selling candies at the store for the last 2 weeks. So. All right, I think we can get started now. Welcome everybody to the October edition of the Akri Dev Call. As usual, we'll start with announcements and then move on to discussions. We actually have quite a few announcements today, or at least a couple pretty big ones. The first one is that Akri was accepted into the CNCF as a sandbox project. That's a really, really big deal for us. This is one of the milestones that we've been working towards for the last little bit. And we've, poured a lot of effort into it. So shout outs to the team for all the hard work they've really put into and really setting up the project for this awesome moment. We'll talk about it a little bit later too, sort of what being accepted as a sandbox project means for us, where we're going to take it and kind of what's next. The second announcement that we have is that Kubecon is coming up. It's actually starting next week. And during the WASM day, we will be having a talk on October 12th at 1:45 to 2:15 p.m. Pacific time. So that's local time. To the event, and it will be called Living on the Edge, using IoT devices on Kubernetes WebAssembly applications. And the link will be in the notes. So feel free to check that out, sign up for it. And make sure to swing by and come and say hi. The third announcement that we have is that we have a new Archery Release. We're going to be at version 0.6.19. And we're also going to be talking about that a little bit later on today. So let's get on to the agenda items. As mentioned, Akri was accepted to the CNCF as a sandbox project. So I'll talk a little bit about what that means for us. Really, when we look at it, there isn't too much of a change since we actually modeled a lot of our practices and the way we've been doing things after how the CNCF does it. So the migration process as it currently stands seems to be really, really smooth. So we actually have a list of items that we have to check off given to us by the CNCF. And basically, it's just a lot of logistical and bureaucratic things that we have to do and sign and paperwork that we have to do in order to transfer the ownership of Akri from us, Microsoft DS Labs, to the CNCF. And right now, we're really just going through the process of doing all that. So being part of the CNCF, kind of what this means for us going forward is that we'll truly have a neutral home. We operate in a sense that we've been operating in the sense of pure open sourceness, but at the end of the day, we were still owned by Microsoft, but now being part of a CNCF project, it kind of brings the trueness to the neutral home aspect of the project, so that we have a CNCF being the organization that really controls it rather than us. The second thing that comes along with this is brand awareness and endorsement by the CNCF. So now that it's part of the CNCF, they put sort of their people and their budget and their folks behind it too. So we have the fortune of leveraging the resources that they provide. So, for events like Kubecon, as well as the Kubernetes blog or the CNCF blog, as well as some of their other talks and events, we kind of have a little bit more access to that. We have the backing for that, so we can kind of promote ourselves and also put our awareness out there through those channels now. On top of that, we also have sort of tech support and also sort of their PR folks around it. So in terms of doing things like marketing, as well as other technical requirements we need, sort of like, CI/CD pipelines, paying for GitHub repositories, as well as other sort of infrastructural needs. We get a little bit more support from them now. So, it helps us build out our project that way. Sort of one more thing is that, we've been using a lot of open source tools for running our projects, running the project, like using Slack, like using Zoom, like using HackMD. So most of that won't change too much. So we were already part of the Kubernetes Slack, so we're going to be staying there. In terms of Zoom, it'll mostly be the same, except it might shift over to the CNCF sort of their instance of Zoom. And then one last thing is that we've been using HackMD. We're basically a transition to using Google Docs, which is sort of the CNCF preferred way of doing things. And then one last thing for us to do in terms of the project that really does affect the project is we're currently kind of deciding on a governance structure. Every project is required to have one, and they're all fairly similar between different open source projects. We're just kind of working out on the small details of what everything needs. So kind of with that, those are all the changes that are going to come with Akri being a CNCF project. Yeah, it's really exciting, a little bit nerve-wracking because it is a big milestone for us. So yeah, we'll be looking forward and keeping everybody up to date to how that progress goes, and definitely open to feedback. And if anybody has any experience kind of doing this too, would love to kind of hear how everybody feels or what kind of things they've learned about this process. So on to agenda item 2. I'll pass it over to Roa. Yep.
Hi everyone, thanks Edric. I'm here today to talk about Akri's participation in Grace Hopper. Last Friday, there's the Open Source Day. Grace Hopper was virtual this year, so the Open Source Day was virtual as well. As a recap for the event, we actually got multiple interests in Akri that can kind of be visible from our GitHub traffic, and also the number of people who actually joined our Open Source Day Slack channel. So Akri was actually participating as a Bring Your Own Adventure track, which is people who actually want to discover, kind of look around and the different projects. It's kind of a small scale project. So we got interest. However, we got only one contribution. That's currently in PR. The contribution we got was improving our Rust usage with Clippy. On the other side, I think as part of the preparing for Open Source Day, we actually reiterated over the issues that we have and made sure that our good first issues are up to date. So those are the issues that are good starter for people who are not familiar with Akri. So we made sure that those are updated, and if anybody is new to Akri, that would be a good starter. So that's what we recommended for people in Open Source Day, and anybody listening to that can definitely go for that as well. Also, one takeaway from the Open Source Day is we updated our developer guide. We made that better and a little bit more clear. We also got feedback on a couple of things, and you probably saw a couple of PRs from Kate on that. Yeah, I think overall it was a good learning experience for Akri, and we're looking forward to the next open source community event. With that, I think I'll put it back to you, Edric.
Wonderful, thank you, and it's glad to hear we have some reach outs to the Grace Hopper and also Open Source Day. Next item on the agenda is talking about our Archery release. This one's also very, very exciting. I'll pass it over to you, Kate.
Yeah, thanks, Cedric. So we're at version 0.6.19. We have a release now. The main part of this release, or I guess there's two main parts of the release, is we optimized our OnVIF discovery handler so that it doesn't use as much CPU and it's just more efficient. And we also optimized our broker so that it's smaller in size. So that end-to-end scenario should be better. And then we also updated our runtime dependencies. So previously we were using Tokyo version 0.2, and we bumped it all the way to 1.0. So there was a lot of code changes there. And that also meant that we were able to update our Kubernetes and Kubernetes types dependencies. So all that led to a lot of code being changed and also puts us on a good path to keep updating those dependencies as changes come. So we're pretty much up to date on all of our dependencies. The final thing with that release is that all of our documentation was moved out of our main repository and into a separate one called Akri Docs. And that's because we also set up a Gitbook site at docs.akri.sh, where you can see our documentation served up in a more readable format. So definitely check that out if you haven't. And it's also linked from our GitHub. And then kind of on that note, to go along with what Edric was mentioning earlier, with the fact that we're now a sandbox project, we will be moving all of Akri's code to a different organization. Currently it's under github.com/deuslabs. We'll be moving to github.com/project Akri. So that organization currently exists. If you were to go there, it'll reroute you to where we currently are under Deus Labs, but we'll be sending announcements as that shifts, and there'll be redirect links so that hopefully no one gets lost, but just kind of an update on all of that. And kind of a question along with the release, since our docs are separated out into a separate repository, I kind of wanted to check in on everyone on thoughts about having our documentation release numbering matching our main repository release numbering. So we now just snapped 0.6.19. Do we also want to create a 0.6.19 release of our documentation? And just to kind of provide context on what others have done, some projects have a completely different release cycle. So for example, Helm has their docs be versioned like 1, 2, 3, 4. But I find it kind of helpful to know exactly, and that's also because they don't create a lot of releases because they're very picky and because they're past 1.0. So just something to consider.
Mhm. I guess one of the things that comes to mind, at least for me, is whether there's any benefit of having sort of historical documents, sort of in the sense that I guess like some projects have multiple versions of their docs listed on their doc site, so you can actually roll back to like version 5 point whatever and actually look at the snapshot of the documents at that stage. Is there any reason anybody would have to do that, like to want to use a different release of Akri, or will they almost always be using the most up-to-date version of it?
So I think for right now, since we didn't do any minor changes with this release, previously we were at 0.6.5, now we're at 0.6.19. The same installation docs, say for 0.6.5, would get you to the same endpoint as 0.6.19. But if we were doing like a minor version change, you would need documentation changes to like get your cluster working appropriately. So say someone wanted to continue to use a previous release, they would need to go use different documentation. Kind of a roundabout way of saying, if you want to use a different release than what is the current one, you might want to be able to reference that documentation. And with Gitbooks, we could have different versions served up, but weirdly, Gitbooks won't allow you to do it based off releases or tags. You have to have branches. So what we could do is we could have a branch for every release and a release for each one.
So I'm also wondering if we want to only release docs with major version changes, like just like, I mean, if we have like a 1.6, let's say 1.6.1 and then 1.6.2, we wouldn't have a docs release. But if we go to version 2 or like 1.7, then maybe we have a docs release. So just kind of follow some versioning on breaking changes where like we think that significant documentation changes are required. Just one idea here.
I think that makes sense. Would that documentation, would those releases for docs be numbered the same? So would it be like 1.0.2 and then 2.1.3, or would it just be version 1, version 2, and somewhere within the README of the docs we'd have a mapping?
Yeah, I think like having the matching is convenient, though. Like I think it's just kind of easier for people to understand what this match is for in the repo. But yeah, I'm not totally opposing the other one, but I like the idea of them matching.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So we'd probably want to have a release, since this is our first one, in that repository. So have the base be 0.6.19. And then the next time we have a release that has a major change or a minor change, some sort of breaking change, then we'll create a new release. And then on GitBooks, we'll point to it.
Yeah, because I think the way we can think about it is we're not necessarily versioning the documentation, but we're basically just matching the documentation to the different versions of the code. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Okay, I think that sounds like a good way to go. We can always delete the release if we find that we don't like it. There's no binaries associated with it. And I'll go ahead and create a branch for it too, in case that kind of pointing to releases is what we want to do and get books. Awesome. So that's all I have on the release side.
Awesome. So we're going to go to the next agenda item. And what we have up is the Archery MQTT POC demo and web UI discussion. So I'll pass it over to you, Vinay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. And also, I'd like to thank Kate for inviting me to this call. So yeah, with that, maybe I think we can get started. Let me share my screen quickly. Okay, I cannot share my screen.
Yeah. So
okay.
I'll give you host access, which will let you. Actually, I think, yeah. Kate, I guess we have to claim host. Kate, would you like to claim host and then give access to Vinay so he can share screens?
Oh, do I have it?
Let me check the list.
I don't have host either. Oh, I can though. Do you want me to claim it? Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, that would be great.
I feel like this never gets easy. I don't know why this is always so confusing.
Yeah, it's sort of like, I guess, the simplistic way of balancing like giving people access and then also like making sure not everybody can share screens.
Makes sense. Vinay, you should have it now. Also great to see you here.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, let me check again. Okay, yeah. So yeah, you should be able to see my screen. I think you're able to see my screen, right?
Yep. Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. Yeah, so what we have is a very like simple setup. We have our custom MQTT broker, which again, like we went again with the template which you guys have provided. We just like gave some implementation, or like we added our discovery logic for MQTT. So we have our MQTT broker deployed separately. And this is the host for it. And we just added one MQTT client inside this custom discovery handler, which connects to this broker. And then once the connection is successful, it subscribes to a topic, like system topic. And then from this topic onwards, like we get to know like which all devices are connected to the MQTT broker. And also like we are sending the status, the connection status in the payload, and we are like parsing. If it is 1, then we are making it as online. If it is 0, then it's like offline, and then we're just passing the like list of online devices as a discovery response. And yeah, so we can see here like currently we have this one client which is connected to the MQTT broker, which is inside this discovery handler. So this is what we see here. Like if I just do this, it should show me this one, and now like if I just connect, this is a simple MQTT client, and I'm trying to connect to a broker now. So let's check. So yeah, this is giving me some connection error. I think maybe I'm not in VPN. Okay, I need to connect to VPN. Just bear with me. I forgot to check this.
Also, Vinay, would you be willing to show that really nice diagram that you put on the issue, just for folks who may not have been able to look at it?
Okay, sure.
And actually, I have one more request. Do you mind sharing like your use case? Is this like a research project, home automation? Is it like a production proof of concept?
Yeah, it's just like we're just trying to explore Akri, and the one use case which we have identified is that for like booking desks, because we have because now due to the pandemic, like most of us are like working from home, and people rarely visit office. So we just wanted to see how Akri can, I mean, explore this use case. Like first we have ordered like sync sign e-ink displays, which would be fitted to these desks, and then like people can scan the QR code that is displayed on the screen, the e-ink display screen, and then like they can book. And these things, like these devices basically like communicate, I mean, via, like they are connected to a hub, and hub connects to MQTT broker. And then we just want to see use it for Akri for asset management, because our overall like roadmap for this is to use Akri for like asset management, because we are into this EV business as well, and people are onboarding these physical devices manually at the moment in our company. It's just like entering the device details through a UI, and then we save this data in a DB, and then some down like some other systems, like, or some other people can again fetch data from this database. So we are using it for like generic asset management at the moment. So that's the idea for us, like instead of people manually adding the device details in our system, like it should automatically there should be an entry like as soon as if device is used anywhere in our network. So
yeah, that's very interesting, this case. So did you say the company name, or did I lose that? Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't get your question. The company?
I mean, your company's name? Sorry,
Isti Energy. Yeah, Isti Energy. Yeah, it's an energy company. And also, yeah, they have like a bunch of divisions, which deals with different. Yeah.
And just one more question: is your MQTT? So you have a separate MQTT broker running in this Kubernetes cluster?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what we use this Mosquito Eclipse like broker, which is again open source, right? So we again did some customizations, that is to publish some messages to a system topic when the device connects or disconnects. So yeah, we have using that one. Yeah. Just hold on a minute. Sorry for this, because I'm checking where I kept my phone, but because I need to enter the response. Where is my phone? Yes, sorry for that. Okay, let me.
I'm posting in the chat for everyone the issue that started this discussion, if folks are interested in kind of looking at it too as we go along.
I think now it should be fine. Yeah, so let me quickly open the diagram as well. You mean, Kate, the diagram for this one? This is like pretty high level. I think I missed some other components as well. Like you can see, I haven't added the controller, Akri controller and stuff like that.
No, I think it focuses in on
But
good parts
the
of it.
diagrams which Shan had in his pull request to explain about Akri, or to explain about the MQTT, and then Akri, they called it as Akri monitoring broker. So here in this case, our discovery handler is doing the job, and that's exactly what I'm doing also here in the discovery handler. So it connects to a broker, and then once the connection is successful, it subscribes to a topic, and then we get the device information as to whether it's online or offline. So this just a simple implementation. Like, I mean, it's just returning whether it's online or offline based on whatever it gets in the payload. So you mean the diagram of the UI or this setup which we have here?
That setup there is great. If you want to click into it.
Hello.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Can you hear me?
You can hear me, right? Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello?
Can you guys can hear me, or how's it? I cannot hear you guys back. So. Okay. Then.
Sorry.
Okay,
can you hear me now?
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, I cannot hear you guys speaking. So maybe some issues with audio. I'm not sure. Okay. So yeah, like I connected this this MQTT client here, and now you should be seeing one more instance being created. And if I just run this command, so yeah, as you can see here, we have one more instance created as well for this client, and the same. If I check here it's also running. 2 minutes ago it was created. So yeah, that's hello.
Hi. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Kate, and I can hear you, Vinay.
Hello, I cannot hear anybody. I think maybe I will reconnect again. Okay.
Can you hear us now, or?
Yes.
Hey, Vinay, can you hear us?
Hello.
Hi, can you hear us? Maybe we can move to issue triage, and then when Vinay gets his headset back connected, we could ask some questions, because I would love to dive a little bit more into that demo.
Yep, I think that sounds good.
Okay.
I guess Renee's back with 2 instances.
Yeah, now I think everything's back to normal. Sorry, I don't know.
That's okay. Hear us okay?
Yeah, now I can hear everyone. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, I would love to ask a couple questions, if
Sure.
that's
Yeah.
cool. When looking at the design and in our discussion, you mentioned how you just have a discovery handler running on one of the nodes and you have like a 7-node
Yeah.
cluster, and you did that with
Yeah.
node selectors. Did
Yeah.
you do that so that you're not overloading the MQTT broker with all these client requests?
Yeah, and also we have some issues with the cluster setup itself because we have this restriction 30 pods per node. And to lift this restriction, I think we have to do this cluster upgrade. And since this cluster is being shared by multiple teams, right? And if I just go ahead with the default configuration, there were like 7 ports getting created for each device because we have 7 nodes, and some of them are failing because of disk pressure. It's mostly for us like dealing to. I mean, it was just like our cluster was not able to handle that because we do have this limitation. And we didn't wanted to like change this setting since it's being shared by multiple teams at the moment. So we just went ahead with this selector.
And
Yeah.
which ports, is Akri using certain ports that you were saying are restricted,
Yeah.
or okay, so
Uh,
what part of that is it? The Prometheus ports, the metrics ports?
uh, you mean I meant the Kubernetes cluster has this restriction of like say we have this restriction of 30 ports per Kubernetes node. So and the port which we are using for MQTT is 1883. So we don't have any restrictions with respect to the MQTT end, but it's mostly dealing. I mean, it's mostly related to the pod create. Like if because we also provided this broker pod, right? The spec, like if there's a device, we have to again we're deploying some workload, or we are creating some image, like we're deploying one image per device. So that will create a pod again. Like if I have this node selector without node selector, so which just because we have 7 Kubernetes nodes, and it will create 7 pods per device.
And then
And we
you're,
already have, yeah.
no, that makes sense.
Each,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. Yeah, because we have this restriction, and we already have so many like pods, and we were getting this disk pressure issue, and some pods were like failing because of this one. So
Great, that makes
because of this
sense.
yeah, okay.
Could you also explain a little bit, you explained your discovery handler well, like in very detail. Could you explain the broker a little bit, what your custom broker or the device pod does?
Currently, it is not doing anything. It's similar to like how we have for eco debug. I mean, we haven't added any logic. It's just the vanilla Nginx image that is being used just to represent there's a device there, and yeah, so this is just not doing anything. It's just like a dummy sort of thing. But we are also exploring. Like, I mean, we could deploy some like some image that does something, some application that monitors this device, or like yeah, that we haven't reached that far yet. So we just like see whether there's a pod created, and we have this Kubernetes watch also as part of a different component, and it just checks whether it just watches over the pod creation and deletion, and then marks the like device status in our like that updates the device status, and also like it also like do entry in our like a DB based on this. So we have just that one, but actually it's not doing anything at the moment.
Is there a reason for watching the pods instead of the Akri instances?
Yeah, like we wanted to persist this device information in our system. If this is what we wanted to do, right? Like we have this asset management database, and we actually manage like all company assets there. and we just wanted to like insert if it's a new device, if it just connects to this broker, right? We already have an entry for this device, and the next time again the same device comes online, we know that there is a record for this device in the database, and then we just update the status. And also like same because we are also building our own custom UI for the business folks, and also for the representatives like who work in the like on field for monitoring, and also yeah, for those people who don't have the background of communities and all, like they just want to see which device is there, which is not there. So we just pull the data from this database.
Yeah, that makes sense. That you're populating a database. I was just curious, you have this
Okay.
Kubernetes watch API and you said it's watching for those pods. But those pods are created by the controller when the instance is created. So it would make sense to watch for the instances, because the instances have all of that property information in them. So I was just curious how you decided to watch the pods instead of the instances.
Yeah, this is also we are investigating, because we were thinking about like what application to deploy and what could be the like next steps for this one. But yeah, it makes sense to just watch instances, and again, like based on the instances, the controller is deploying the pods, right? So yeah, that's there. Like we also like have a separate task for it, and yeah, it's currently in the backlog to investigate more on that. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Another question I had is, I know you said you're deploying the discovery handler on one node because of your port limitations with your cluster. But I was wondering if you find that that is a scenario you'd want anyways for MQTT. We've heard from other contributors that they would like a model where there's one discovery handler, but still the devices are being advertised to every node. So maybe the discovery handlers would discover the first time and then go away permanently, and only one continuously runs. Is that a scenario you could see yourself interested in?
Yeah, like it's not the port limitation. I'd say it's a pod limitation. I mean, we have currently. It's not the port one, which you mentioned port limitation, right? So I just wanted to correct that. It's not the port limitation, but it's a pod limitation. Currently, I mean, if you see this Kubernetes itself has this restriction, right? Like we should have certain pods per node.
Okay.
Pod, POD, I think maybe.
I heard it wrong. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Yeah. But regardless of the pod limitation, the idea of having a discovery handler on every node, if you were able to up the number of pods on each of your nodes, would that be something that would be okay?
Yeah, that's definitely, that's what we wanted to have. But since we had this limitation and that requires us to upgrade the cluster, and since it's being shared by multiple teams, we didn't want it to disturb it at this point of time. We also don't know what would be the implications, right? And if, and also we have to discuss with other teams to do this upgrade. But yeah, that's what we have. I mean, currently we just have this discovery handler like running on one node, but we would like to have it running on all 7 nodes. So yeah, we haven't actually planned anything for it as of now, but yeah, things definitely going forward, we'll have to see how we're gonna go about it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, and also related to the UI, right? You mentioned you had a couple of questions. I'm not sure if we discussed UI.
I think we could also discuss the UI, but I want to leave room if other people have questions about your end-to-end flow too.
Just a general question. So is your MQTT discovery handler generic, or is it proprietary to the work you guys are doing? In other words, are you planning to like contribute it back to Akri when you get a chance, once you have like everything working and flushed out? Is that like the plan?
Like we haven't planned anything. I mean, but the broker is like generic, but we did some customizations because it was open source. I mean, the code was there, and we added this customizations like to send this device information when it connects or disconnects to a system topic, like publish some message, right? So we just added this customization, but like contributing to Akri, yeah, we haven't discussed this thing because it was just for our use case at this point of time. But yeah, like if time permits or like yeah, we would love to contribute as well. Because I did because we had some issues, you know, setting up the like discovery handler itself, like based on the template which you had, and there were some issues there, and yeah, we figured it out, and then yeah, as and when like if it's a simple one, like yeah, we were able to fix it, but as enough to have, because this implementation differs, like it can differ. Currently we're just checking whether it's connected, disconnected, but not everyone would want this information, right? Like they want to have their own customization because MQTT have this kind of flexibility. They can do anything they want, but we need to be sure like what things the developer wishes to do there. But there are some common things that is like connecting to a broker and also subscribing to a particular topic. That can be common things, and again it can be configurable. So currently we just added this broker details in the code itself, but it can be moved to YAML file, and then yeah, you can read it from there. But yeah, like we haven't planned. There's no plan in place for us like to contribute like to the MQTT Akri. So we haven't discussed this in our company, but it is currently mostly with our like use case what we have.
I think that makes sense. The statement about how MQTT covers a lot of scenarios. So creating discovery handler for it certainly is hard to make it abstract and work for everyone's scenarios. So yeah, if it gets to a point where y'all have figured out your scenario and want to contribute it back to Akri, that could be a cool discussion. And Shan, who has been on the thread that discussing the UI, also has thoughts there too. So it'd be cool to bring in people to kind of discuss what are the prevailing scenarios or what is a way to bring it into Akri.
Exactly.
Yeah, and if you have any feedback on the template, feel free to message that too or put an issue up on it. I think we probably want more templates because I think a lot of people are developing their discovery handlers in Rust because that's the only template we have, but it could be in any language. So I think also if you're interested in creating a template in another language, that's something that now that you have expertise, that'd be great too. But yeah, I would love to hear any feedback on that because yeah, it's supposed to be not a restraint, it's supposed to be something to get you started, but I know it can be restraining as well if people stick to it a lot.
Yeah, like some issues which we had was related to this versioning. Like it was trying to run build a Docker image for this, and then we had some error due to this dependency. Yeah, it was hard to figure out initially, but finally, like we spent some time there, and post that everything was simple, like easy. So.
Yeah, I'm glad you caught that, and that's all fixed.
Yeah.
Great. Well, do you want to discuss kind of the motivation around creating a web UI a little as well?
Yeah, so it's like the motivation was that like business folks and also the people who do not have Kubernetes background just wanted to see which all devices are there or which all devices were discovered by the discovery handler. in a nice like presentable way, and then they wanted to check the status as well. So this was something which the business guys proposed to us. So that's why like we wanted to have a UI, and I was like just was wondering if anybody has created something already for it, and then this concept came out, right? I mean, this discussion came out of it. So so yeah, I thought even it would be cool just to see what all devices the discovery handler discovers, and what are their properties, because currently if you see, they are created as environment variables when the pod is created, right? So like you have to either like go inside and check what are the properties. So I thought it would be just better if you just represent in a UI the device and its properties. Yeah.
For the web UI, are you getting those properties from the brokers, or are you grabbing them from the instance?
Like currently, we are just doing this exec. If you see this Kubernetes client, right? The library provides that, but again, it will be part of instance as well. We can get it from there. So
yeah, I think that would maybe be easier and wouldn't require as many permissions. Because the instance is supposed to represent the device and its information.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But having a UI to display that in all of them would be awesome. And I think the idea of, you mentioned timestamps of offline, online, and those properties, and making it deciding like if there's a different view for each configuration and stuff like that are all very interesting. I don't know what the best way is to continue that conversation. We have a thread on it, but I think opinions will continue to change as more discovery handlers and use cases are added. But I think creating something of some sort, maybe having it, people could use it and then provide feedback, and we could continue to pivot it, might be a good strategy.
Yeah, I totally agree. But this UI was again like we have our business people wanted to have this, and we already almost pretty much almost like 70% done with it. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Cool. Do other folks have any thoughts on a UI of any sorts? Awesome. Well, we can continue that discussion on the thread, and then Vinay, maybe just keep us updated on that there. And
Okay.
maybe if you have something that you want to share with the community, like you said, you're 70% of the way, maybe once you hit 99 or whatever.
Okay. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
I'd love to try it out. It seems like a really cool setup that you have.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I can share. I can give one more demo with the once the UI and everything is ready.
Awesome. That would be great.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Edric, do you want to transition us on to whatever's next?
Yeah, so I think we covered all the agenda items, so we can go to issue triage.
Well, I actually think that's on me, so let me go ahead and claim host. I think I saw at one point Brian became host.
Let me give you host access. I think it was transferred back to me. More to make host. Yes, you are now host.
Yay. Okay. Wonderful. Great. Okay, so just for issue triage, we have 7 issues that we have yet to put under our categories of investigating, are those issues that we still need to kind of figure out what approach we want to take, and we're not sure how to solve it or if we're going to. Then we have backlog, which are things like we think Akri should fix, in progress, the things that are underway, and then obviously our completed tasks. For CNCF tag runtime presentation, the runtime technical advisory group from CNCF invited us to present at their meeting this Thursday. So that's in progress. I'll go ahead and move that over. And then after the presentation's done on Thursday, we can go ahead and close it out if that sounds good to everyone. Great. This is the lovely issue we've been talking about with Vinay, the web UI for Akri. I'm going to go ahead. Vinay, could I go ahead and assign you to this since you're working on it and kind of leading the discussion of it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Great. And then I'll go ahead and move that over to in progress. This cargo clippy warnings issue is the one that Roa mentioned that was being tackled during Grace Hopper. I'll go ahead and put that in progress since we have a pull request up for that, but it just needs a couple more iterations. For the original question that sparked our discussion about the web UI, I don't know if we want to, Vinay, what are your thoughts on, I can't remember where we left that discussion, if the question itself should be closed since it's now moved to a new thread?
Yeah, it ended with this creating this feature request.
Yeah. Do you think it's safe to go ahead and close that then?
Yeah, sure, we can close this. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go ahead and, oh wait, I think I need to actually close it. Lovely. Great. Then we have, oops, a little disoriented. And then we have two good first issues here. We created these for Grace Hopper to tackle. I'm gonna move them both to backlog because anyone can grab those and they're ready to be worked on. And those issues are, this one, the listen watch one actually is probably should be tackled pretty soon. Basically, when the Akri agent creates a connection with the kubelet via device plugins, the device plugin endpoint called listen watch is the continuous connection between the kubelet and the device plugin. And that's where the device plugin says, hey, these devices exist. Right now, for the agent, that's on a loop. It's on a 1 minute loop unless spurred forward by changes in device state. And every minute at least, that device plugin is telling the kubelet what the current devices are, regardless of whether that list has changed, which should be changed because the kubelet expects to only receive updates if there are changes. So that's a good first issue that anyone could tackle and is also good to tackle soon. And then this last one, we currently we have a webhook for validating configurations to make sure that they're formatted correctly beyond what like SERDI deserializing can do. And we updated our Cube, which is our Kubernetes client dependency, which means that we now can use their admission controller that's a part of that package instead of the current implementation, so that we don't have to have our own open API types for it, I believe is what would change. But if anything, it involves investigating whether we should use KubeRS and then possibly implementing using it as well. So it's not quite a good first issue because it's a little bit more involved, but great one piece issue that someone could take on that's a little isolated. Are there any labels that we want to add to this? I don't think it's quite an enhancement because it's keeping things the same, but just using or a bug. I think it's okay to go without labeling it unless anyone sees something that would fit for it. Okay, I'll go ahead and leave it as is. Yeah, so that's, I guess we have it all triaged then. Go ahead and stop sharing.
Awesome, and that actually brings us a minute away from the top of the hour. So, yeah, precisely timed. This was on purpose. But well, thanks everybody for coming, and you know, shout outs to Vinay for coming and presenting your work. It was really insightful, and it's always great to see what people are doing with Akri, sort of the different use cases that it can apply to. So, yeah, thanks everybody for coming, and we'll see you next month or at Kubecon if anybody's coming.
Yeah, see you all around. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.